Junji Ito's Tomie. I finally got a hold of it. I finally read it, and I liked it a lot. Almost, I would say, not quite as much as Uzumaki. There are certain aspects of it I like more than Uzumaki. I think it's a bit more consistent. I don't think it's so much all over the place. It doesn't like crap out near the end. There are aspects of Tomie that I really really appreciate and like, and it really I think speaks to Ito's strength as a mangaka in that this is completely different from Uzumaki and it's sort of different characters having like one singular sort of very human sort of horror to it. It's very very different than Uzumaki, but I liked it a lot more than Geo. I thought it was perfectly enjoyable. I found it very entertaining, and I found the character Tomie herself to be very, very interesting because this is going to be a very unique aspect to this. But my novel, Cruel and Beautiful, does actually feature a character like Tomie, the vampire Amaris Yu. And it got me thinking, like, very, very early on, just how similar they were and how they approach situations in very similar ways and how they have the same kind of influence over people, the same kind of appeal to them, but they're presented in a very, very different way. I think Ito did a way, way better job. A way, way better job emphasizing like how Tomie can sort of influence a wide variety of people, right? You're not just having this character seduce men and boys. She's sort of like charming her teachers, people around her, like anyone and everyone she can and will influence. She'll do anything to get what she wants, which is purely to be sadistic. There's no higher purpose to it, which in and of itself makes it it doesn't make the character feel flat or empty at all. It makes her feel even crueler and just pure evil. I can't think of a villain in the past several ever, I would say, who's more evil than Tomie. I can't think of anyone. Like maybe Dolores Umbridge and how she like abuses children under her control. I can't think of anyone off the top of my head who I hate more than Tomie. But at the same time, I see why people are drawn to her. This is this very supernaturally attractive woman who has this this mystique to her and sort of knows how to play people. You can see she's a great manipulator. It's amazing how she manipulates all of these great people, all these different people in like these really violent, believable ways. It's a very very compelling. I was completely blown away by it, like the entire way through, all the way up to the end. This character is like introducing herself in completely new settings, getting involved with all these different characters, and it's not even clear exactly how all these stories fit together. They all just have Tomie in them. Like for the baby one, like how did she become a baby? I don't fucking know. Like it doesn't make any sense, but it doesn't stop it from being compelling and interesting. And I think that's something this one has over Gyo in that like it actually is able to sort of emphasize just what makes this character, what just makes this idea so interesting throughout the entire thing. You're always meeting new characters, you're always going through these different situations, you're always seeing Tomie get messed up in different ways. Like, it's subtle, but the breakdown of her relationship with these people, it always goes downhill in different ways. It's very, very interesting seeing her play off all these people, try to manipulate them, try to play off their insecurities, and it doesn't always succeed. There are certain individuals I noticed who aren't influenced by her, people who are so devoted to a certain ideal or a certain idea or a certain person that she can't actually manipulate them. It's very, very interesting how this guy, maybe I shouldn't talk about specifics, but It's very, very interesting to see her, and it's kind of interesting because this is a character who technically always gets everything she wants and is always winning, but then somehow always rages and sort of throws temper tantrums. It's a very, very interesting dynamic. I think the main difference between this and Cruel and Beautiful is that like Tomie was made for a female audience, while Cruel and Beautiful was made for a male one. So Tomie focuses on the emotional aspect of like Tomio's relationship with all these different people, right? Like how I was surprised at the sheer amount of female characters who are featured in these stories. You would generally with succubi, you sort of have this situation where a character is. Again, the general idea behind succubi is that they draw in men, and Tomie does do that, but she also manipulates women in very realistic ways that I myself have observed in the past. You do see Tomie have like female hangers-on who are trying to get people to pay attention to them by hanging around with Tomie, or thinking that being around her is going to make them happier or something. Like she has a magnetic personality. You know what I mean? Like you may have met this kind of person before. I have, and it's a really bizarre phenomenon to witness how like a character like this can build you up and then like tear you down. It's kind of interesting, and I know firsthand. This is one of the reasons the character is so interesting to me. I know firsthand that I would be completely immune to that. Like, it just doesn't work on people like me because, really, if you understand that these people are terrible, like you're not going to be one around them. You're not going to want to be around them, and you are going to walk away. And that's kind of the interesting thing about Tomie is that she sort of like really resents it when people do that, and I think that's a thing that real thoughts do. I'm not sure. I don't think I've ever heard of someone raging about me walking away from a situation like that, but I'm not aware of one anyway. I'm sure it has happened before, but it's interesting. But Cruel and Beautiful, in contrast, is exclusively focused on the sort of aspect of how this kind of personality for a woman is like completely toxic for a relationship. That was kind of the main point to Cruel and Beautiful. And honestly, in its earliest stages, Cruel and Beautiful strongly resembled Tomie from like the whole abusive angle, the sort of shit talking, the sort of like back and forth. I love you, but like you are the biggest piece of shit in the world. You know what I mean? How she like leads them on, how she like tears them down. Like MRSU does that a lot, you know? Like, she does manipulate people a lot, and it takes a very, very strong heart to sort of resist her lure, as it were. The reason that all vampire hunters in Cruel and Beautiful are female is specifically to resist her charms, and it doesn't always work. But I am Cruel and Beautiful is coming out on Valentine's Day, 2 days from now, and I am super, super excited for it. I'm super, super stoked, and I really hope people like it. I mean, really, reading this, I'm starting to feel kind of insecure because I don't think I could. I don't think Cruel and Beautiful is nearly as good as this. But that's just my opinion. Like, Cruel and Beautiful. I didn't write Cruel and Beautiful for myself, obviously. So, Tomie, I enjoyed it a lot, man. Like, I am not exaggerating. Like, there are aspects of it that I appreciate and like more than Uzumaki. Like, it's not bogged down by this sort of like spiral theme. It doesn't get ridiculous. It mostly just sticks to its core concept of this girl, this terrible girl who keeps getting murdered by people she draws in. It's very, very compelling. I enjoyed it a lot, and it's definitely going to stay on my shelf. I actually don't know what happened to my copy of Geo. I had it sitting right here. I hope no one stole it. I left it lying around. I don't know where it went, but anyway, yeah, Tomie is definitely my second favorite Junji Ito so far. I didn't like, you know, those short stories I read. None of them, I don't think, I liked all that much. Uzumaki, I think, is always going to be my favorite. I think I will always defend that point. I don't see myself ever reading anything from him that I like more than Uzumaki. I think that's the peak for him, to be honest with you, because it's just so deep, so complex and so profound. Um, Profound. That's not the word to use. So surreal and so creative. You can't just come up with a concept like that every day. Believe me, I know. And I think it's impressive that Tomie was kept me entertained as much. Like, it kept me reading, it kept me invested. Again, I don't think it's nearly as strong as Uzumaki. I think it just does not have that same creative spark to it. You know what I mean? There are some aspects to it that kind of bog it down. Like, there are some aspects that are just like, was that really necessary? Like, that whole bit with the end with, like, the old people, like, his evil plan of making Tomie old. Yeah, that'll show her. We'll keep her locked up for 100 years, and then we'll let her out, and then she'll be old, and then we'll laugh at her. It just, really, that's your brilliant revenge scheme. It's just, kind of lame. Yeah, Ito's not the best at endings, I feel like. It's mostly just conceptual stuff that he's really good at. Yeah, Uzumaki was great, and this was perfectly fine. I enjoyed it a lot.